Okay, so Then and Now is a series where I go back and I play a game that's a little bit older and I cover on if it's still fun or not today. So today I'm covering The Division. When I first played The Division's beta way back in 2016, I thought the game was a bit empty, the enemies boring, and it just felt like there wasn't much to do. So I just tossed it aside. When the game went on sale last summer, I bought the gold edition for $13, played it until I made it out of the tutorial area, and then uninstalled it and swore never to return. That was before the Division 2 beta. Now, having lived in DC for a good chunk of my life, I owed it to myself to play it and see how close they came to recreating DC, and yeah, they did it. Not only was it cool to tour the city that I knew and loved, but I had a great time doing it. So that's when I told myself I could buy the Division 2 if I could make it through the first one first. That way, I knew I wouldn't waste $60. As it turns out, my initial impressions of the first Division's beta being empty were correct. That's because the first area is actually pretty empty. In fact, the first two areas are pretty empty feeling. However, then I got to the Garment District. This was when the entire game seemed to open up for me. From this point on, there was always something going on. Bad guys walking down the street, civilians shouting from windows.
You know how thankful we are.
Activities around every corner. I just started to enjoy myself. Now, I approach every open world game the same way. Try and complete every side activity before even starting the main quest. Little did I know, Ubisoft anticipated this, at least for solo players. So the side quests and the main quest seem to ramp in difficulty at pretty much the same pace. However, you're just better off in general doing the side stuff for an entire area first, then its main mission, then heading to the next area. Good luck finding a group to play this with you. And taking on the mission 1 or 2 levels above is a must, in my not so humble opinion. Why is this a must? Well, bullet sponges. Now I hate bullet sponges. Bullet sponges are the worst. It's one of the main reasons why I could never get into the Borderlands games. However, this game must have been updated or something, because they're not nearly as much of a problem as I remember. In fact, it seems like they've toned down a lot from the footage that I saw when the game first came out. However, there are still some cases. Now, you'll be breezing through the missions, thinking it's easy, only to get to some armored boss at the end who will end you in a mano-a-mano fight. For me, my personal rule is if it takes more than a clip to kill someone, then they're too spongy. But I dealt with it for this game. Other than that, the combat is exceedingly satisfying, especially if you're a higher level than your enemies. There's nothing better feeling than getting a sniper rifle that's about 2 or 3 levels above who you're fighting and just going to town on their heads. One thing I want to say, exploration is useless. Don't bother. There's no good loot hidden anywhere. The crafting system is trash. And the only reason to explore is to see the gorgeous city. And when I say gorgeous, I mean gorgeous. That's not to say it doesn't have a share of graphical bugs. The buildings in the distance can be very low res, lighting can flash, decals appear and disappear sometimes, but all in all, oh man. Story-wise, it sucks. The story is there, it helps the game flow, but until the final 4 or so missions, you're just annihilating one faction after another. That's the story. It does set up for the second game nicely. Don't expect stellar writing either. These characters suck, especially Fei Lao. However, I did like the safe house officers. They actually each had their own personalities and were fun to listen to. There was this Morgan Freeman guy, Don Falcone, a worried mother type lady, and even a guy who was obsessed with dogs. These guys were cliche and a little bit weird considering the rest of the game's tone, but honestly, they were my favorite part considering how dry the rest of the game is. The Dark Zone? It's a thing. PvP is completely empty though, and I only entered it once. I personally just completely existed off of the normal loot. Also, this brings up something interesting. When the second division was announced, they announced these things called shields. When you first capture Madison Square Gardens, you'll get a new shield. This will give you level 30 loot right off the bat. It kinda breaks the game. Sure, you can't equip it, but you can sell it. That way you'll always have a superior gun from the weapons vendors. I personally chose not to do that. I figured I'll equip it when I'm level 30. But then the ending boss kinda became a cakewalk. One more thing. When Killian Experience reviewed the game, he said, well, it's a bit true. The AI is easy to exploit. Enemies often come out of one opening and just line up for you. Bosses get stuck. Or you manage to find a sweet spot where the boss can't hit you, but you can hit them. Thankfully, those things are here though. Otherwise, bosses solo would suck. However, as I said, the game is gorgeous. Also, the side missions are a bit repetitive. They consist of go here, set a beacon, or talk to a guy, shoot people, done. There is one thing that seems a bit creative that has you carrying cases back to a truck while enemies swarm you, but it's still very shooty, just like the rest of the game. Basically, The Division is a standard open world game that's average at best. It's gorgeous to look at and get inspiration from if you're a 3D game designer, but it's not the greatest to play. I'd recommend it in about hour-long spurts. After that, it's super repetitive, and the last 5 or so areas are a grind. Honestly, I was having a blast with this game from about level 5 to 23. Once you get to level 23, you get to these LMB guys that are just spongy. Also, I never played a single expansion. As soon as I was done with the main game, I was done. I felt like I got my money's worth and I didn't need more. It's sort of fun, it's not moddable, the community is dead, and its expansions aren't required. Thanks for watching, all 3 of you. Wait, there's 4 now?